Hi Aries, this is your monthly video for July 2018. So this month we have a couple of eclipses coming up. One's a solar eclipse, and then the end of the month we'll see a lunar eclipse. Eclipses in and of themselves bring in new energy and also take away old karmic energy, depending on whether it's solar or lunar. There's a lot going on astrologically. We're already experiencing the Mercury retrograde happening, or sorry, Mars retrograde, and then Mercury will also be retrograding this month as well. So people coming into our life, there's going to be a lot of people that are irritable and cranky. And so let's just take a look at how all these astrological transits affect you, Aries. So let's tune in and we'll ask the guides to guide this reading for Aries for the month of July. Aries for the month of July. So let's see how it plays out for Aries at the beginning of July, the beginning of the month. Ooh, card's falling out. Okay. Okay. So beginning of the month, Aries, I do see, because of your wise planning, some kind of a trip involved, or you might be planning a trip moving into the future, but there's some kind of optimistic plans that are going to come about, and this might be because Jupiter begins to go direct at the beginning of July, so it changes directions, and this brings in a sort of like a grand trine in the sky, and it's with Neptune and Jupiter, Neptune, and the Sun. So this brings some luck, some money for many of us, and I just see, because you have sort of set yourself up, you will be taking some kind of a trip or some kind of it could be happening for, over the summer, but it might be that you just finally decide, you know what, here you get a windfall of money and you decide, bam, I'm going to put that on a trip that I've wanted to do for a long time. It's a great way to start the month. I do see that, you're still feeling in your heart space, that you aren't doing everything you want to do or where you exactly want to be. You're sort of more in a reflection mode than you normally would be. And this makes sense where Mars is retrograded and you're moving into Mercury retrograde. So you're going to naturally be thinking about what you want with the Mars retrograde, like what do you want to put your attention on. Mars is your ruler, Aries. So, when it's in retrograde, you are going to be wondering, like, why am I putting my energy into that? Or should I put my energy over here instead? So I see you thinking broader about those types of things, particularly at the beginning of this month, the month of July. You recognize this need to accomplish a lot. What the guides are telling me for you to do, especially pertaining to your career, Aries, is to make a list. Get a piece of paper, a book, something that is more solid actually than a piece of paper, because that can get lost, but a book, an agenda, something that you can write a list in. It's not just going to get lost and then you have to write it again, but get all these thoughts that you're having out of your head and down onto paper, and prioritize those things that come up, like how important is this? Sometimes we just have these thoughts, but when you see it all on paper, you can recognize which items are more important to do than others when you sort of see it all rather than letting it floating in your head. And I do feel that, there's going to be some emotional, new emotional experiences coming up for you. Even some romance I see for many of you at the beginning of this month. So the Ace of Cups comes up for you guys. Definitely get out to the beach if you can. Maybe that's where the person will be waiting, but ultimately, you know, I see, you know, just fast forwarding to this solar eclipse that happens on the 12th. So it's in the new moon in Cancer, and that new moon is actually opposed by Pluto. Is it by Pluto? Yes. Yes, by Pluto. So lots of transformational energy happening at this new moon solar eclipse. Very intense, lots of new beginnings, and you know, you might not experience them right on the 19th, but for you, Aries, particularly what's showing up is some positive career opportunities, okay? And also some new clarity in the way that you think, in the way that you process your external world. So over the next 6 months of solar eclipse, usually, you know, you'll notice differences then. It might not happen, bam, right on the 12th when the new moon hits, and that's when the solar eclipse hits. You might not feel anything then. It could happen over the next 6 months. So just keep that in mind. And again, that Neptune, Sun, Jupiter, Grand Trine will be happening around that time as well. So super powerful. You know, if you do have your chart handy, check out your North Node, because the North Node, or Ryu, is that's the vertex of the moon. Okay, and so that's this solar eclipse is the North Node. So that's directing you to your purpose. So what comes up around this time, or over the next 6 months, as it were, pertains particularly for you, Aries, with your career. So shining a light on your career and how to move forward in that and be successful. So let's just check into the middle of the month for Aries. The middle of the month for Aries. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so I went straight through to the end of the month for you guys because the cards were just wow. So remember, we have the solar eclipse, and the sun comes up for you under that solar eclipse in new moon. And then what came up for you, which happens on the 27th, which is the second eclipse, which is the lunar eclipse in Aquarius. That Aquarius star card actually came up for that position, which is another wonderful indication. Like the star card, I've talked about the star card a lot. It's one of my favorite cards. In the traditional tarot, it's there's a scene of a woman rising up and grabbing a butterfly, which symbolizes transformation and coming out of something, moving into something more hopeful. So it's a sign of hope. It's a sign of, you know, dreams coming true in the end of difficult situations. So I do feel like something that's been difficult for you, that has been weighing you down, that has been bringing you down, will be removed under this lunar eclipse in Aquarius. Now, this might not come easily, like, so you might be attached to whatever is going to be removed in the beginning, but ultimately it is going to lead to something better for the future. And the guides are saying, you know, to choose your logic, think logically during this time, which is going to be really hard for a lot of people. Again, with Mercury retrograding starting on the 27th, which is the same date as the full moon in Aquarius. Yeah, so, you know, some people might get riled up there. I just have to double check something. But definitely the guides are saying to, for sure, choose logic over emotions. People are going to be hot-headed, and because of that, they are going to be almost impossible to listen to. These are people that aren't really awake. So it's the blue moon we're talking about in July, or buck moon, or some people are calling it the end of the world moon. And I'm just trying to remember. Oh gosh. Sorry about this, guys. I'm just trying to remember something that is important for you particularly. So this is the longest moon of the century as well. Now if I could just remember. Anyways, we're not going to worry about it. So leading up to this full moon, you'll get a surge of energy coming probably from the solar eclipse at the beginning of the month, but you're going to feel, which is kind of the opposite of most people, because Mars is retrograding, most people will feel like they don't have drive, but you get a surge of energy literally around that full moon. And, you know, you'll just be determined, and, you know, whatever is around you, you're going to embrace now and make work for you. So think chariot, think taking those two very different forces and wielding them to your will, getting them to move forward. So very determined. It is a sign, again, indicating career advancement. I see really, really good things for you in terms of career. And just remember to stay patient. Remember that just know that the seeds that you have planted will prosper. One hiccup for Aries this month is just this worry that you won't be in a long-term relationship. Now, if you are in a long-term relationship, it could be that you're unhappy in that relationship, and just this worry that you're always going to feel this way. Like when are you going to be able to have that happily ever after? For those of you that are in a relationship, the person you're with is someone that is safe to trust. So I do sense you have some trust issues. And for those of you that are not yet in a relationship, the guides are indicating that, you know, now is the time for your career, and to really focus on that and not to worry so much about, you know, when your partner's coming, when you're going to have your soulmate, that kind of thing. That'll come later. Right now, they're just saying, you know, really focus on your career, and you'll actually be super attractive because you're really into your career, and that's going to be like an attraction factor. There is a sense of not knowing, like some of you may be feeling like, you know, it's time to move on from a project or a different workplace, but you're having a hard time with that. So I do want to pull a card, just in an oracle card, to see like what we could do in that regard. Like this feeling of, should I move on? Should I quit my job? Should I stay with my job? Because this is significant to your advancement, okay? So the card that comes up is about balance, and this is about balance in friendships particularly, which is interesting. It doesn't have anything to do with work, but it does. We can't just focus exclusively on our work and then lose sight of our you know, our social life. Now, why is this important? So if you're in a career that doesn't allow you to be, you know, to have a social life, and you're feeling bitter and angry and just like work, 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 it's probably not for you. You know, the worry about the future is also a block for you guys. Worrying about, you know, if this is the right path, if this isn't the right path. You'll know it's the right path if when you wake up in the morning, you're excited to go to work. You're excited, you're inspired by what you're doing, by what your colleagues are doing, by your work environment. If you're feeling like you're just dredging through, you know, quicksand, and you have to drag your ass to work, and, you know, there's always a sense like, I love what I do, and sometimes, you know, I just want to stay home and chill out. That's okay, but if it's every day you're literally dragging yourself and you're looking at the clock and you're like, oh my God, when is this day going to end? I just have to make it to 6 o'clock. Those are indications that that's probably not, you know, the job for you. So just keep that in mind. I know, we have to pay bills at the end of the day, but what most people don't realize is when you do what you love and you do it without fear, without anxiety, without stress, money comes from everywhere and just supports you. Life supports you. And this has happened in my personal life. It's not a cliche. I'm not making this up. I'm literally, 100%. It's time for you, the last card I'm going to leave you with, Aries, it's time for you to explore other options. And this is for those of you that are feeling stifled at work, that are feeling pulled down, etc. These three solar and lunar eclipses, these three eclipses that are coming up for a reason. Change is happening. Aries, you are so strong. There's no worry in my mind that you can't get through this, but don't fight it. Go with it. Go with the flow. That's your July reading. I hope that helps you. And if you want a personal reading, you can book. The information is below. I will see you again here next month for the month of August, and take care.